Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. This is going to be the second of a three-part series on Hermann Hesse's Steppenwolf, and I'm recording all of these videos on the 30th of October 2022, and they will go live at various points throughout November, so I can spend most of the month. I'm working on writing for NaNoWriMo, and this is about my personal relationship with the novel. I can't, say enough times. This is one of the books that has absolutely, most changed my life, and deeply impacted me. It's also one of Hermann Hesse's very finest. I highly recommend it to you guys if you're interested in German and Swiss literature, learning more about Hermann Hesse's books in general. Hermann Hesse's Steppenwolf, published in 1927, is one of the books that most changed my life. It was among my father's old books stored in my room, and I took it into my own collection, with permission of course, when I fell in love with Hesse when I was 14. However, I didn't get around to reading it until December of 1999, shortly before I turned 20, and this was in my sophomore year of community college. This is a copy I just got out from the library recently, so I could do blog posts. But unfortunately, my real copy is in storage with 99% of my other books 900 miles away. But hopefully, God willing, I will finally be reunited with all of my books soon. Hermann Hesse's novels included, and I do have all the mass market paperbacks. I just really feel emotionally close to them, even though that's no longer a trim size I prefer reading. I obviously didn't have a huge amount of life experience at that age. At 19, my cognitive development was still about 6 years away from full maturity. Scientists and psychologists now agree the brain doesn't really finish developing completely until we're about 25 years old, and one of the last things to be finish up is cognitive development, with things for example, understanding nuance and containing our emotional reactions to things. Thus, there were aspects of the book that flew over my head, which I misinterpreted or didn't think were that important. However, I still connected to Harry's basic struggles and character arc, and saw myself in him. I had enough self-awareness to recognize how overly serious I could be, and still am, preferring my intellectual, interior life of the mind over social life with peers, and taking part in current pop culture, which is something I just was never really able to relate to. I kind of basically shunned going out. I thought dating and dances and parties and stuff were totally boring and totally beneath me, and that kind of made me suffer in other ways, because I just had way more familiarity with being a hopeless intellectual, living in my own head and writing and reading all the time, instead of learning about how to behave in social situations and make more friends. I also never learned how to two-person dance, and even before I knew who Buster Keaton was, I was channeling his spirit by deliberately rarely smiling or laughing, and that's a common complaint throughout the novel. Harry's friends Hermina and Pablo and his lover Maria, they're basically saying oh dude, why don't you smile or laugh? You don't know how to do these things. You're just way too serious. You need to learn to lighten up and live like a regular person in the real world. I also absolutely loved the Magic Theater and all the trippy, surrealistic, mystical, esoteric, paranormal things happening there, and I absolutely loved unexplained and paranormal phenomenon. But because I also believe very much in the principles of skeptical scientific inquiry, I totally welcome scientific inquiry into these claims and unexplained phenomenon, because for example, for many years a lot of scientists dismissed things lucid dreaming as total hokum and woo and pseudoscience, but today we have absolute proof that lucid dreaming is really does exist. So we should welcome scientific inquiry, so we can understand these things, and not just oh, this is a religious thing, it doesn't need any proof, or oh, this is paranormal, it's not meant to be understood, or it's its own science. No, we should look for scientific explanations for these things as well. Rereading Steppenwolf at age 42 was an even deeper and more personal experience. I'm now much closer to Harry's age, and I've gone through a lot more of life and more finely honed my views. For example, at 19, I also agreed with Harry's disgust for bourgeois conformity in society, but it was more of an abstract political idea, not something I really got on a personal level. I've always felt much more comfortable in the proletarian and lower middle class world. Those people are humbler and more authentic, and don't live their lives by cookie-cutter checklists of mindless conformity, doing things only because they're expected, keeping up with the Joneses in their little suburban housing developments with open concept houses promoted by HEB. I hate open concepts, sorry not sorry. Although I do, like Harry, also like certain surface aspects of bourgeois society, like their comfortable, beautiful homes, ability to afford nice things to decorate the house, and tendency towards high culture thanks to widespread university education. Unfortunately, there is in certain aspects of proletarian society a kind of anti-intellectual bent. I mean, you can kind of understand it, obviously going into the workforce and making money to support your family and keep a roof over your head is more important than spending 10, 20 years basically collecting advanced degrees or studying for a doctorate in French, medieval music or things like that. But a lot of it's like, oh, why do I care about, Shakespeare? Like, that's like stupid. Like, don't get above your raising. Like, living in a blue collar town my whole life was good enough for like me and many generations before you. Why do you want to like go to college and live in a different type of town with a house that's like larger than like 700 square feet? So there's like basically a conflict between like certain aspects of those worlds I relate to and I don't relate to. And obviously I know this is a bit off topic, but anyway, I just don't like all the classism, snobbery, and pretensions that go along with the aspects of bourgeois society that I actually do like. Harry's depression over being almost 50 and still feeling like he hasn't accomplished nearly as much as he had hoped to with his life also hit home much more strongly at 42. At 19, you're so full of idealistic expectations and assumptions for your happy future. And then you find yourself not being in the same position as most of your peers, like finding a partner, marrying, and having kids by a certain age, locking in a long-term career, buying a great house, achieving success in your field. I also suffer from cyclical depression, though unlike Harry and his creator, thankfully, at least I haven't had any suicidal thoughts or plans since I was 14, and hopefully, God willing, I never will again. Harry loves classical music and has no familiarity with modern jazz until Hermina forcibly introduces him to it. Although he does it, but he has like a kind of like a primal like interest and attraction to it. But he's like kind of afraid to act on it. He like shuns it all the time. Oh, I prefer classical music. I'm afraid of what might happen if I give in to my animal instincts and start like looking about or listening to jazz music. I love classic rock and pop and also enjoy classical music while not having any interest in anything modern. If I do like modern bands, they basically have to have been like famous like before I was born, and they just like happen to still be making records after I was born. And I was like, it was sometimes it's a huge shock when I like fall in love with a band that actually became famous in my lifetime. Like as I have I believe it was Valentine's Day or this year I did a video on how I became a Duranie. Sometimes I still can't believe I fell in love with Duran Duran because they actually were famous and formed in my own lifetime instead of like 20 years before I was born. Harry isn't the type of person who goes to clubs and has no idea how to dance. Likewise, I've always preferred to stay in reading, writing, doing homework, studying, and watching serious films and like-minded pursuits, instead of going to places like clubs and bars, and I only know how to do solo dancing and line dancing. Social life with my peers never held any appeal for me. When I first read the novel at 19, I was 100% virgin and had never even gone on a date by choice. And I'm not asexual, I just never really had the opportunity. And I also believed, I only went to date for marriage and like date guys who are also serious about marriage and like Jewish and religious and stuff. And unfortunately, there just really weren't like any opportunities at all for me in the place I was in at that time, and were not for a very long time after that. Thus, the scenes of Harry in bed with Maria, his feelings about his failed marriage with Erica, and the other sexual and romantic content didn't really speak to me with any personal connection. At 42, after having had a physical relationship with my now ex, Sergey, thank God he's an ex, I could relate to Harry's romantic disappointments and understand what some of the phrasing in the sex scenes referred to. None of them are graphic or detailed. They're more left to the imagination type. The language is very evocative both emotionally and sexually, and like at one point, like for example, when Harry is with Maria shortly before they go to the masked ball in the Magic Theater, he's feeling like, oh, this is like a special intensity she's like giving me. Like, it's the kind of like sex someone would have when they like feel like this might be the last time I'm with this person for a long time, or when I'm telling this person goodbye, like things like that. Then as now, I adore the magic, a general love of esoterica, mysticism, and the paranormal. At 42, I'd done so much more reading on those subjects, and also understood the deeper intentions of the specific realms Hesse chose for Harry to enter, and the experiences he has inside. Like, for example, the realm where cars and humans hunt one another and kill for sport. It's a statement on the increasingly impersonal, violent, machine-centric nature of society, not just a shockingly violent image of a future world. The room where Harry plays chess with pieces of glass representing the 100,000 aspects. It's about trying to put oneself back together after being so broken, and making sense of our numerous selves. The room where he revisits his past with all the girls and women he ever loved is a poignant longing for long-lost loves, and imagining how we should have done things instead. And even though Harry fails the Magic Theater, he's nevertheless determined to continue healing and doing things differently, going forward, like, becoming better at dancing and like toning down the like serious intellectual all the time, and like becoming better, knowing how to smile and laugh, and so people like realize, oh, he's just one of the guys, and like completing his like total healing process. There's always a next time, And when he goes into the theater again, Pablo would be waiting for me, and Mozart too. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment. Particularly comment. I do love seeing comments from you guys, and I'll see you again very soon. Thanks. Bye.